Hello, my name is Jamie Clitheroe, and this will be my video board response number 3 to the prompt with the controversy over the Google memo. And I'm going to be drawing specifically on what we've read, heard, and explored this week to support my ideas and what I propose Google to do. Okay, so here we go. After watching Google's rebuttal memo from our course materials this week, there were arguments involving women in science who felt discredited with views of a sexist work environment. Many people of color feel like they are unseen in the engineering and science department. Ursula Burns describes in Google's response that, quote, "Many people still don't believe that I was an engineer, and believe it or not, we know how to do math." Studies were showing that Latinos make up to 2% of the tech force, whereas African Americans make up just 1% of the tech force. There were people saying that they did not know how or where to start to distinguish these numbers of diversity. In our readings, like the Saga Toolkit, titled Measuring Gender Equality in Science and Engineering, Working Paper 2, it is described with their views of women in the workforce and how they wish to achieve equality. Their main focuses are to build capacity for the collection of data on gender in STEM, improve the measurement and evaluation of women's and girls' situation in science, identify gaps in the policy mix, and improve national STI policies related to gender based on evidence. Reduce the gender gap in STEM at all levels of education and in research, and increase the visibility, participation, and recognition of women's contributions in STEM. The Saga project contributes to the promotion of girls and women in STEM by offering tools and technical assistance to countries to attract and retain them in STEM fields. I think their motive is very important for their movement for women in the tech force because it allows them to be ensured in their participation, as well as have equal and consistent opportunities that were not yet credited to them before. The Saga project continues to strive for legislation for the promotion of gender equality. They wish to empower all women and girls at all levels. I think Google's issue here was their lack of inclusion of all people to what it means to have a diverse work environment, as well as an equal one. The entire reason why Google received so much backlash was because that a woman wished not to be in a sexist workforce. I believe it is ideal to recognize why this woman felt the need to address those feelings and what had gone wrong on Google's counterpart. So it wasn't her fault, it was Google's fault, in my opinion. In Google's response video, they addressed their version of diversity, showing numerous ways their company promotes it. They showed numerous communities on Google that allow people to join these networks along with their interests and ideas. Although I think that is a great way for people around the world to connect with others. I also feel like they created this space of inclusion after they received their backlash. It went viral across the globe, and the woman who created the viral document addressing her complaints was in fact an employee from Google. This means that she knew the ins and outs of this company. So, in my opinion, I find her the credible source. I think it is a good thing that Google reacted the way they did to this controversy, because it is allowing their company to grow into something a whole lot better. Another course material from this week that relates to women in science is, quote, Double Jeopardy, Gender Bias Against Women of Color in Science, end quote. And that was written by Joan C. Williams, Catherine W. Phillips, and Erica V. Hall. In their article, they address the issues regarding women in science fields. They conducted many interviews and experiments where many women, especially those of racial backgrounds that were different, were perceived in their science field. They came to a conclusion from their experimental finding that, quote, Black women have to provide more evidence competence. And that is by Rosette and Livingston of 2012. Said a Black microbiologist, quote, It's a huge barrier how you're perceived as a capable scientist. With the understanding of having unconscious bias against women in science, it will prove to others that competence is seen as a much more relevant feature in a woman's career when compared to men in literally the same field. They continued to explain how race was another barrier for successes in science. Said a Black woman in medical imaging, quote, That initial expectation of not being professional or whatever or not being taken seriously until they hear me. I think that's more because I'm Black than because I'm a woman. End quote. It is hard to grasp that so many women have experienced such measures to be successful in this particular field, whether that's engineering or science or any field of that matter. The white male was said not to be proved nearly as much or without competence to be hired, promoted, or even instigated into the career. So I'm saying men weren't needed to show any sort of competence. They were just seen as intellects and smart, and they could do this without a problem. The problem Google carried before their memo was their inconclusive work environment and their viewpoints among women. I am proposing Google to market themselves as an inclusive workforce. They need to hire people of all races, they need to hire more women, and they need to be more aware of their unconscious bias. I am happy that they have created communities to showcase a sense of their diverse opportunities. But they also need to focus a lot more on who they are hiring and why. Thank you.